Here with Nathan, who is also known as Vander, or Squire Vander, President Vander, who is the president of Durtamarion, which is a Belegarth realm here in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, Vander. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I said, Durtamarion is a Belegarth realm, but what is Belegarth?
Sure. Yeah. Belegarth is basically a full contact sport that's modeled after medieval combat. So we've got swords and as you can see, a lot of other type of equipment behind us here. But it's basically just a full contact sport where the main goal is to just defeat the other team.
Defeat the other team.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does that work? How do you defeat an opponent?
Sure. There's a handful of rules that go over simplicity, the fighting aspect of it. We'll start with basically just our regular sword. And simplistically starting, if you hit somebody in the arm, they're going to lose that arm. And to represent that, they're going to put it behind the back. And this is just to let the other people on the field fighting know that you have been wounded. And then if I hit you anywhere else, then you'll be dead. And most people represent that by putting like their hand on their head, or like if I have a sword, I'll put that on my head.
Sure.
If I were to hit you in the leg, you'll see people go down on a knee. And then same rule, if I hit you again, then you're going to be dead. You're going to put that hand on your head or your sword on your head. Any shot to the body, so anything that's going to be from your shoulders down to your butt, is going to be just one hit. If I get you there, then you're just dead in one swing.
Outright.
Yep. There's no special rules for that.
Okay. So that's like if I get hit in an arm and then I get hit in another arm, I'm dead.
Yep.
And if I get hit in an arm and a leg, I'm dead.
Yep.
If I get anywhere in the torso, I'm dead.
Correct.
Got it.
And then I didn't mention the neck or the head, and it's because we don't usually swing at those. It's actually against the rules to swing at the neck or the head.
Cool. That sounds preferable.
It is. It is. If we also have other ways than just swinging that we can kill somebody.
Okay.
You can stab somebody, and if I stab you in the arm, it's not going to count against those 2 hits that we talked about a minute ago. So you're just going to hang it limp.
So instead of putting it behind my back, it just hangs.
Correct.
Cool. Okay.
This is to represent the difference in the hit. So the behind the back shows that it was a swing versus this showing that it's a stab.
Cool. Okay.
And then from here, you still have to get hit twice. So if I hit you in the leg, you'll go down on a knee. This stays the same, but you can still fight.
So it's just disabled. It's not like a point against me.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, you just can't use it, but you can fight with everything else you've got.
Okay.
And then if I hit this arm, you would then be dead because it's your second hit.
Because it would be stabbed and then cut, and then it would be cut again.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
it's really
still
the cuts that matter
the
most.
Sure.
If I were to stab it and then cut it, yep, perfect. You'd put it behind your back to represent that it's been cut, and you now got that 1 point against you.
Okay. Okay.
Any other hit to you, and you're out.
Got it. What if you stab me in the torso?
If you get stabbed in the torso, any shot to the body is going to take you out.
Got it.
So
it's like
stab to the torso, that's it.
Cool. So it's like it's disabling. So it's disabling my torso, which is like disabling my heart, which is probably not good for me.
Right. Yeah.
Cool,
You can't fight very well without using your body at all.
That makes sense. Are there any like niche nuanced rules? Like that sounds pretty straightforward and pretty simple. But like, are there anything else that's like helps with combat or clarity or anything along those lines?
Yeah. Actually, just with this weapon, and we can talk about other weapons here in just a second. There's a couple of nuanced rules. We said we don't take hits to the head. We don't want to hit anybody in the head or neck.
Right.
It's dangerous. It's not fun. We also, to help with that, if you're holding onto a weapon and somebody hits you directly into the hand, into the fingers, we're not going to take those hits. We're just going to say hand and keep fighting. The main reason is it's not as realistic as the other stuff we talked about, right? I chop your arm off, you suffer.
Sure.
The hands, we do that really just for protection. The weapons are safe, but you can only get hit in the fingers so many times before it's going to hurt. The easiest way I compare it is like if I bounce a basketball to you and you catch it wrong, you're going to jam your finger. And like that's just a basketball bouncing, and that can hurt for weeks.
Sure.
We're swinging at each other. So we just discourage it by not counting it towards your score. It doesn't count against you.
Sure.
So there's no advantage for me to attack at your hands.
Sure.
Same thing with feet. If your foot is on the ground, and I hit you in the foot, we're not going to count that either. Same concept. We don't want people hitting each other in the toes, tripping people up, anything like that. So we
Sure.
just don't allow any kind of hits to the foot.
Sure. Well, that makes sense, I think.
Yeah.
It also kind of reminds me a little bit of like airsoft or paintball, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely consider this to be probably on par with like a medieval paintball.
I like that.
Going back to the hits,
Mhm.
the hits in this game aren't soft. Kind of like paintballing and airsoft. When you get hit, you are well aware that you have been hit. There's no kind of questions about what we take as a hit.
Sure.
And like paintball and airsoft, if I just sat here and unloaded on you, you would not have a good time. And if I just sat here and hit you 10 times,
That wouldn't be good.
it's not going to be fun.
Right.
But the one hit that's hard, or the two hits that's hard to take you out, is enough where it's not a problem. You get hit 2 times, you take that short break while you're dead. It's not hard enough to injure you, so you're ready to go and fight again, and you can go and fight all day long.
Sure. That makes sense.
We do have some other weapons that have slightly different kinds of damage. We have, I guess before I get to the bigger, we got the bigger sword.
Shields?
Yeah, I was thinking shields, but let's start with the bigger sword.
All right, big sword.
Yeah, so the bigger sword, most people would think bigger sword, all advantage, because it far outweighs the reach. We kind of have like a rock, paper, scissors kind of concept in the game, where if I just have a smaller sword, I'm probably also going to have a shield. This typically, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, this will typically take 2 hands, so I'm less likely to have the shield. But this can break the shield if it gets 2 solid hits. So just like your
Interesting.
body can take 2 hits,
The shield can take
the
two
shield
hits, too.
can take 2 hits.
Okay.
And those hits wouldn't count against you.
Sure. This is massive.
They're big. One of the disadvantages of having too big of a shield is that you also have to fight around your shield because
Sure.
it's in the way. So there's kind of a happy medium between how big of a shield you want
Sure. Now-
versus how advantageous it is for you.
Does that mean that there's like classes or races or like role play magic or anything like that? Like is like we've talked a little bit about like combat, but like I'd say that's kind of role play right? Like that's almost like an ability. You can break a shield with something
Sure.
that's not actually breaking.
Yeah, no, so in Belegarth, we don't actually have any kind of classes or races. Again, it being like a sport, all of the ability you have is what you bring to the field. If
So
I
what
am,
I can do is what I can do.
right, if
Cool.
I am faster than you and I run away, you can't kill me unless you can catch up.
There's no fireball or anything like that.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah. And if I can score a hit on you, there's nothing that you can say or do that would block that shot.
Sure.
Unless you can physically stop me.
Yeah, it's kind of
from
like
hitting
flag
you.
football or something like that. You know, you're kind of going at an opponent trying to be faster than them.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly. Unlike in flag football, though, although we don't have any kind of special rules, we do have personas that people take on. So you introduced me as Vander, and that's the persona that I go under. Some people take those personas further, and they go into, they'll give themselves a race or a class.
Okay, so you might end up with like Orknar the Man-Eater or something like that. but-
Exactly,
okay.
yeah. But the Man-Eater doesn't come with any special powers. It may bring him more joy to go out and fight
Sure.
people as the Man-Eater, but he takes the same hits that we just went over.
Sure. There's no health
regardless
points
of
or anything
that.
like that.
Correct, yep.
Got it.
And if you come out and say that you're a dragon in human form, you still just get 2 hits like everybody else.
Sure.
You still have to hit a shield 2 times to break it.
Sure.
There's none of that kind of ability in there.
Sure.
And then as far as like using equipment, there's not a class system. So there's nothing that says, oh, I can only use one small sword or I can use a sword and a shield. It's honestly just what you can own
Okay,
is really
sure.
what the limiter is.
Pay to win. That's a joke. I'm just joking.
But there's no real limit to what you can bring out there and fight with. We do have one hard rule, which is you can only have one shield.
Okay.
We don't want people just going out there with like
Tons of shields.
Yeah, tons of shields and just
Sure.
being invincible.
I think you touched on this a minute ago. You were saying you can't hit anybody in the head, but you looked around like there was something that could hit you in the head. Is that?
Yeah, so we do we never swing at anybody's head. So if it's ever in my hand, we're not going to hit somebody in the head with it. But
Sure.
we do have a couple of exceptions for what we call projectile weapons. So that's anything that's going to be flying through the air. So we do have bows and arrows, which is probably the most common one, and then perfect. Yeah, that's what I was pointing at. We have what we call javelins. And they're basically very large darts. You probably can't see it well on camera, but they are fairly light. And it's very, very soft padding
Which
on
is
the front here.
significantly different than those swords that you had. The
Correct.
swords are very
Yeah.
solid and rigid. That is totally different.
Yeah, we'll go more into what the weapons are made out of, but this is the foam of the sword, and this is the foam of the head.
Sure.
Now, this weapon, like the arrows we have a lot of extra special rules around them. We talked about rules on hitting a minute ago, and it's kind of a very simplistic, I hit you in the arm, you take it. But if you looked at our rule book, it's many, many, many pages long.
Sure.
And a lot of that goes around the safety of it. So I'm going to say here that I can shoot you with this arrow, but before anybody would on our field go and shoot somebody with an arrow, there's a lot of safety checks that go into what we've defined as a safe weapon.
Okay, so you have somebody who's like going through and making sure that it meets like special requirements.
Right, and
Okay.
that's part of the rule books that like most people won't cover in something like this because it's very granular. The weight of the weapon, the amount of foam. With arrows, there's a measured poundage of force that the bow that fires this can have.
Sure. It can't be like a crazy like 120-pound hunting bow or something like that.
Yeah, we're not going out there with major hunting bows. We're going out there. They are real bows, and they could hunt something with it.
Sure.
But we're not going out there with the huge, super heavy. We
Sure.
cap
And
it,
that looks like a real arrow too.
and it is a
right?
real
Like-
arrow. Yeah. We've
Just
obviously
hopefully not
removed
with
the tip. Yeah. But we'll get back to how they're made. But going back to the hits on them. So anything that's not in my hand, we do allow to go one step further and hit the neck or the head.
Okay.
Like the body, you're just out.
Sure. Still part of my torso, I guess.
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. These, because again, they're not swung. So if they hit you, they're going to disable the limb that they hit. So it works
Okay.
exactly like a stab.
Okay.
The only thing that counts against you for the 1-2 is it's got to be a swung weapon.
Got it. Okay. So the only way that's going to kill me is if it hits me in my torso.
Yeah, exactly.
Got
Yep. You could get hit in the arm with both arms with one of these, and you're still
That
just going to
sounds
run around.
hilarious.
Yeah, it does. You'll still run around, but it hasn't taken you out just yet. We do have some things that kind of, going back to the rock, paper, scissors element, we have armor, and here we have a helmet. It looks more like a mask, but it's a helmet. And those will stop an arrow from hitting you in the head. Well,
So-
we'll stop it from hitting you, but it'll stop it from killing you.
Okay. So a helmet will?
A helmet will.
Okay.
Yep. And it's kind of a weird rule because if you wear armor on the rest of your body, an arrow actually just passes straight through it.
Okay.
So
So
if
what
it-
good is armor?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the helmet will only protect you from projectiles.
Okay.
But going back to the hitting, if you had armor on your body, it's only going to the armor only protects what it's covering.
Like actual armor.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah. A lot of people think like if I've got half an arm of armor, that it's going to protect the whole thing.
Sure.
We want it to be a little bit more realistic, so it's only going to protect the part. So
Sure.
for it to protect you, my sword would have to hit your armor.
Right. So if I'm wearing a bulletproof vest and you shoot me where I'm not wearing the bulletproof vest, I'm still going to get shot.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Cool.
Going back to it though, if you had, let's say your whole body is covered in armor for this example. Every inch
armor.
of you is covered in armor.
Got it.
When I throw that first shot and I hit you in the arm, instead of putting it behind your back, you're going to keep fighting.
Okay.
The first shot against that armor is going to destroy that piece of armor.
Okay.
So for fighting purposes, that first hit is completely ignored.
Okay. And I'm
You're
assuming
going to keep fighting.
communicate that or something like.
Yeah, yep. So you're going to tell me that it's hit you in the armor.
Okay.
Most people just say armor. If the fight's not going too fast and you can communicate extra, you'd probably say like right arm armor.
Sure.
Or arm armor. They know they hit you in the right arm. You know,
Sure.
the more communication you can give, the better though.
That makes sense. That's good life advice.
It's true. So you're going to keep fighting. That first hit breaks the armor. If I hit you in that same spot at least that same target. So if I hit you in this arm anywhere, you're now going to take that hit.
Okay. So just one extra hit. So wherever the armor is just an extra hit.
Yeah, but it's going to cover everything. So if I hit you in this arm, I'm going to break that armor.
Sure.
But if I hit you in this arm,
I can still call armor.
you get armor on that arm too.
Cool.
And that's why we distinguish that I'm saying right arm armor.
Sure.
Because I have right arm armor,
Sure.
and I have left arm armor, and I have body armor. Body armor only protects the whole body. So you don't have front body armor and back body armor.
Sure.
You just have
It's torso.
torso armor.
Got
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they can go to legs. And then helmets are kind of still the exception. Helmets never break. A lot of people wear them just because getting hit in the face, no matter
Sucks.
how safe the equipment is still not the most enjoyable experience. So we allow people to just have that kind of protection on them.
Sure. I guess let's quickly go through a couple of these weapon construction materials.
Sure.
And just kind of like look at what some of this stuff's made of. So like I saw that this javelin back here is like super squishy, but the sword is not, right?
Yeah.
Like the sword is.
And let me get that from you too. So another thing you'll see too is the javelins are very flexible. And again, that's to keep them light, and we don't have as rigid of material in there.
Sure.
Whereas the swords, so this is a sword without any of the safety padding on it. We've got the handle and the pommel, but this is a solid core. This cannot be bent.
Easily.
Not easily. You can see a little bit of
Yeah.
give in there. If I hit you something full force, you'd see a little bit of give. But this is going to be what the center of the weapons are made out of. This is what kind of gives it the most oomph when we're hitting each other. This is the force behind everything.
Sure.
On top of that, we have the foam. And this is what protects us. So the foam is still very dense, but it's going to give. It's going to slow that shot down and keep you safe.
Sure.
There's more pieces that go to it. So we see that this is kind of a put together one. We use a different type of foam at the top here, which is probably hard to see because it's taped up. This is for the stabs. So we have kind of a happy medium between that really squishy stuff and this harder foam here. And that's what we use for the stabbing.
Sure.
And there's a little bit of harder stuff in there too. Anything to protect you from that hard piece that's in the middle there.
Sure. That makes sense. What about armor? Is armor also made out of foam?
It is not actually. So the armor we use is supposed to be more realistic than the other equipment we use.
Okay.
So it's made of leather or we say time period metal. We're really just kind of trying to keep away some of the like aluminums or higher end alloys.
You don't want like cosplay necessarily. You're looking for something that's a little bit more authentic feeling.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. It's got to have some heft to it. Is really what people are looking for.
And you're saying like everything else has like weight requirements. I'm sure that there's like a thickness requirement or something like that.
Exactly. Yep.
Sure.
Yep. So there's leather requirements that it has to be a specific thickness. Same with metal. We require a specific gauge of metal for it to count as armor.
Sure.
And then there's coverage requirements. I won't go into all the specific details, but I can't just wear a leather bracelet and hope that I block your shot with my little bracelet. Yeah.
That makes sense. I guess kind of pivoting a little bit here. This feels like there's a lot that goes into like the crafting. Is there like, does everybody make their own stuff, or is it like there's people who do this for a living or something like that? Like, where is there a vendor? Is there a community around that?
Yeah, sure. So going back to kind of like what Belegarth is as a whole, is it's a community of people who the game itself is focused around the fighting.
How big is the game?
The game is played nationally.
Okay. So like thousands and thousands.
Yeah, yes.
Sure.
Thousands and thousands of people play it all across the country. And in some other countries. I know someone in Canada that plays,
Very cool.
comes down and fights with us. So the game itself is focused around fighting, and that's kind of what brings everybody together. However, the equipment, like you said, is made by people. You can't just go to Walmart and buy any of this stuff except for like an arrow shaft.
Sure.
Everything else is made by people in the community, and that includes the clothes that we're wearing as well. Again, it's not something you can just go and pick up at the average store.
Sure.
So
you can buy cheap versions of it around Halloween maybe, but.
Yeah, Halloween is a good time for picking up stuff for decorating and getting into the costume. But typically you also want something that's a little bit more rigid than costume quality because you are going to be fighting in it, not standing around at a house party or walking down the street.
Sure.
So the community's centered around fighting, but again, everything we touch and use throughout the whole game needs to be made for our game.
Sure.
So there are people who fight and make their own stuff. There are a lot of people who, you hinted at, there is a job for somebody to make equipment. There are many companies in the game, and people's sole living expenses come from making and selling equipment. They travel across the country to our events, which are basically like localized games where we would host and have people travel to an area to fight.
Sure.
They can range from very small to very large. There was one, I guess, last week that had just shy of 900 people at it. And that's on the bigger end.
Sure.
Just over 1,000 is pretty much where we meet kind of the max of people who travel for one time.
Sure, but I can imagine 1,000 people fighting in a giant battle. It feels like an epic scene from a movie or something. Like.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
That's what it's going to look like. 500
Sure.
people charging against 500
Yeah.
people. It gets pretty crazy.
Sure. I guess how competitive is the scene? So you're saying that there's events and there's also practices, right? So like that you were saying like you're president of Dirtamarian. Dirtamarian is not an event, but Dirtamarian meets every week for practices.
Right.
And then you travel to events from there to go fight other people from other places.
Right.
So that implies that maybe there's like tournaments or like competitiveness. Like what does that scene look like?
Sure, yeah. So Dirtamarian is the name of the group that meets in Nashville. We meet at Elmington Park every Sunday, and we practice, exactly what you said. For a lot of people, that is the whole game. They go to a practice, they fight. There's not a lot of competitiveness to them. They just want a fun thing to do on the weekends.
Sure.
And they may never travel to an event. They just go out, they have had the same equipment for years, and that's just all they do. Then we have the extreme side of that, which are the people who really care about their skill in the game.
Sure.
People who practice, and when they go to practice, they have goals. They have specific shots that they're working on, maybe specific blocks that they're
it's
working
like
on.
boxing or something like that, where
Exactly.
you're working on technique.
Yeah.
Sure.
The disadvantage of boxing, and most of it, is that the guy you're fighting might not necessarily be there to help you do it. Now, I could do one-on-one with you, and we could work on specific things. All right, I'm gonna throw a left hook. You're gonna dodge it, or, and we could practice that. I want to practice this one shot. I need you to react to it how you would, and we can kind of fine-tune that. And there are people that do that.
Sure.
And those people will travel to events. And events are where you get to really meet people and kind of test your caliber, but also like kind of show it off a little bit. If you fight in Nashville, I'm only going to fight the same people over and over. And for a while, that's great. For a while, I've got a lot to learn, and you can learn a lot fighting just your local group.
Sure.
Events, though, open you up to people who also like to travel for the game, which usually means that they're a little bit more invested than the average person.
Sure.
And they also have been practicing every week. And so we go to these large events, and most of the game, again, is centered around just the big fighting, but we do host tournaments.
Sure.
The tournaments have often slightly different rules, just because it's a more controlled circumstances. All the same hits, all the same weapon-to-weapon stuff, but on the field, you could bring whatever you want.
Okay, so it's
You
like
can use
at
whatever
the
you want.
event, it's like a melting pot of anything that anybody might like. But in a tournament situation, you might have just we both use a short sword. Or
Yeah,
we
we're going to
both
narrow it down
Sure.
to be, we're showing a skill in a specific standpoint.
Sure.
So we narrow that scope down so that people can show it off. So we'll have a tournament that is just, we each get one sword.
Got it. Cool.
We'll do tournaments that you can get one of these longer weapons, but maybe we limit the length.
Sure.
Some tournaments don't allow armor, so that it's just a show of who can hit who better, not who had the most expensive armor that protected more of them.
I guess one last question about tournaments, and then I have something I want to ask right afterwards. But are there team tournaments? Like, is that also a thing that like are there teams within the sport of Belegarth?
Sure. So there are team tournaments. Typically, it's either 2v2 or 4v4.
Okay.
Tournaments are kind of whoever's hosting the event can kind of see what they think people will want and make whatever they want. I've seen all the way up to 10v10 in a tournament. It gets
Hectic.
hectic is a great word for it. But as far as like teams go, for a tournament, it could just be those two people fighting. But as far as teams at a broader scope, although the realm of Dirtamarian is all a group of people who fight in Nashville, we have, for lack of a better word, cliques basically, but we have units is what we call them.
Units, so it's like a team, like an individual team.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. So the units are going to be a team of people or a group of people, of like-minded people,
Sure.
who are going to join together, and they usually practice together, they can fight together, do things outside the sport together. It's usually a close group of friends. Anybody that comes to the Nashville field is part of Dirtamarian.
That's like the place that you're at.
Correct.
Got it.
Units, however, are more specific, and they can be very granular or as wide as it wants. So if I started a unit, I can make the rules for the requirements of that unit.
Okay, so you can make some units that are a little bit more like hardcore and like actually training, and some units might be a little bit more like friendship based. Is that kind of the idea that I'm getting?
Exactly, yeah. Or something in between.
Sure.
You may have a unit that, like you said, is training, and so they have a high caliber expectation of people. And sometimes they use a little bit of a gatekeeping on that, where the entrance, if you want to join the unit, is you must defeat 2 of our people in single combat.
Sure.
And so you have to be at least on par with the people we already have
Sure.
in order to get in.
Okay.
Other
and like
groups,
that's just an example. It's not necessarily like everyone's like that.
yeah, no, exactly. Units, again, they're as broad as people want them to be.
Sure.
But you'll see more of those hardcore groups in the tournament scene.
Sure. That makes sense. Well, I guess my last actual question here for you is, can we fight?
Yeah, I'd be happy to
Excellent.
show you the rules
All right.
and we can go ahead and fight.
Well, if you'll give us just a quick break, we're going to roll a video just while we get set up to do some fighting here. But stay tuned, watch the video, and we'll be back.
I have 4 people fighting.
One shot, now the future is yours. Go! Yeah, I was building on a lecture. Verses coming daily under pressure. Working on applying the scheme. The true style trademark is at the edge of your dreams. I'm talking one shot for the kill. The breeze cut, freeze up, straight dropping the chills. I'm talking taking over pieces and shares. A bomb in the sky high. Check the movement is here. Yeah. It's one shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. Your memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. We put the bars in the brakes. I'm talking one chance at best, yes. Painting pictures for the culture, keep the brushes fresh. Flip the cover, work the drummer, passion never rests. Freedom is our teacher under pressure, now we blessed. See, I was so good for the goal. It's one art, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! Yeah. It's one art, one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
So, my first day out, like when I realized that the athleticism of running across the field meant a whole lot. Like getting to the fight. People were so serious about, hey, get in the fight, get in line. We need you in there. I think someone equated it to something similar to like Olympic fencing. Like, this is a fight. When you take a hit, you take a hit. You know, even in the rules, it just says you can't give a dainty hit. You must give a solid, powerful blow. So people would just boom, boom, and then run you over and keep going. The rules are really simple. You get hit in the arm, goes behind my back. If I get hit in the leg, I go down on the leg that got hit. If I get hit in the body, I'm just dead outright. If I lose any 2 limbs, I'm dead. You know, no headshots or melee weapons. You can just go out there and have fun.
All right, so the best way to think about me is a player within this game. Now, as a player, I fight at a local park or realm. That's where I currently am. Now, as a player, I have my realm, but I can also have a unit, which is like a team that I'm a part of. It's a like-minded individual. It's my camaraderie and the people I also fight with when we travel to big events where tournaments are held. And tournaments is always the best way to think about it. It's like the division match, the state championship. We're all fighting for that top title. And so me As a player, working within that unit, I have my own individual goals and duties as a player, as a lineman versus a quarterback. Those would be the weapons we use and how we work together. But at the end of the day, when I come back to practice, after the tournament's over, we break back out. I could be fighting against my unit every practice, not even by choice. That could just be how it works out. And there are multiple units at each realm that are fighting together.
Even though we're all part of the realm Dirtamarian, there are lots of different units within the game. For example, I'm part of the unit The Lost, but there are other units such as EBF.
And Dark Angels.
And Jester's Court.
And Heavenlight.
And there's hundreds more, and we all go to events to compete in tournaments. It's great.
Hi, I'm Abacus Blue. I am the head of combat for The Lost, which is my unit. As the head of combat, I do several things to get us ready for tournaments and make sure that we show up and show out when we go to events. So I make sure that the tournament teams are stacked effectively with people that work well together and have practiced together. And at practices, I make sure that they are practicing together and doing the things that they're working on. I also help facilitate and even lead video reviews off-field and make sure that everybody has appropriate gear and anything else that they would need to be ready for the tournaments as best they can.
I study video. By almost every sport you'll see, you be like, all right, get the video out, study people. I study people in video.
That's actually the funny thing too, thinking about it, is that we are like the football teams that like are watching tape. Because we'll get in Discord and we'll all join in and we'll watch tape and we'll discuss tape and we'll discuss people or units and like what are they doing and like how does the play break down.
Yeah, I've seen people with playbooks for during team tournaments and stuff. They're like, hey, we either split here or 3 go here and 1 go here, stuff like that. And they have their own playbooks just set out. So people take this seriously. And so yeah, it's only for a belt flag at the end of the day, but this is what I love doing. It's like any hobby, any physical athlete, any physical sport. It takes time to get good at it. You have to hone your body for it in particular. And it's still rough on top of it.
Yeah, you either hone or die tired.
Yeah.
All right, so we are back after that excellent video. And we're going to do a little bit of actual sword fighting. I guess we're just going to go for it and you'll get a live demonstration of what to expect if you ever come out to a Belegarth field. And just FYI, if you're interested in joining Belegarth, you can go to belegarth.com, and on that you will find a realm locator. You can put in your zip code and you can find a local realm next to you. And I think everyone who's ever been involved in it would highly recommend it. So
Yeah. We're going to start simple, just one weapon versus one weapon.
Okay.
This may not match exactly what you see on a regular day. We're in a building under controlled circumstances
very
versus
small area.
yeah,
that we can
versus like being outside at a park
Yeah.
and fighting. We'll start simple. We'll grab some other equipment as we go and kind of fight through things. So we're just going to start one sword versus one sword.
Okay.
Typically in a situation like this, we're just going to touch swords. And now we're ready to fight.
We're
That's
fighting.
kind of your indicator that the other person's ready to go.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, we're in this tiny little space here.
Yeah. Light. on
So
yeah.
that was my hand both times, so hand.
Yep.
Dead. Chest.
You got my arm, so you're dead. I've lost an arm, but I'm still alive to continue the fight. So let's do another one. Let's
Dead.
do another one.
Okay.
Dead.
You got my arm?
Yep. So there
So
you
that
go.
goes behind my back.
Yep. You go behind your back, but I'm dead. So you're the winner of that fight.
Excellent. That's
So-
1-1.
Yeah.
We're tied.
Yeah, let's do
Gotta
one more.
have
Let's
a
break this tie.
Tiebreaker. Hand.
So that was my hand, but it wasn't holding anything, so I lose that whole arm.
Ah, but I am holding this, so you
So,
give me
yep,
a hand.
yep,
Does it
you're
count?
good.
Got it. Head again. Give me in the hip.
All right, hip's part of the torso. You hit me in the arm and the back. So it's another Simo.
So a Simo. So we hit each other at the same time. We're both dead.
Yep. Just because you hit me doesn't mean I still didn't hit you.
Sure.
So we can keep doing this, or we can grab another piece of equipment.
Let's break the tie.
All right, let's do it. Dead. It was good. First one I blocked with my sword. Second one you killed me straight away with.
All right. You want to
So-
switch to something else?
Yeah, let's grab a second sword,
Okay.
and then we'll switch over to a shield here in just a minute. So, only rule, limit is no more than one shield, but you can have as many swords as you can handle.
So I can grab all of these.
If you want, you're not going to swing very well with them, but
That's
yeah.
true. That's true. All right. Well, we have both swords now.
Yeah.
Sword. Oh, dead.
All right.
Him in. Pectoral.
You got my arm there at the end, but again, you're dead.
Yeah. I also just hit myself in the face.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Good stab right away.
I have a secret. I'm not left-handed. Hit. You got me
Okay.
here.
All right.
So I think I did this. You stabbed me, and then I hit you. So what happens there?
Sure. It gets a little bit more complicated when the speed of the fight goes up, but generally you try to decide where it was. And I think that I stabbed you, but your shot was already swinging at me,
Okay.
and so you hit me, and I'm going to say that we simoed again.
Okay. If I wasn't in motion already, so if I hit you here and then you stabbed me, and then I throw a shot afterwards, though.
Yeah, that's a good question. So in cases like that, you'd want to communicate to me that you think you were late. And that's
Okay.
going to say that, hey, I know I hit you, but I shouldn't have. I was already dead, but because we're not actually dead, we keep firing our nerves and firing shots. So you say, my shot was late, and I'm going to go, cool. And that means I'm not going to take that hit.
Okay.
So in a 1v1, it's less important, but in a bigger field, that means I can go on and fight the next person.
Sure.
Or if this was a tournament, it means we don't fight again, but instead you have lost,
Sure.
and I move on.
And I guess there's probably something we didn't touch on, people who are supposed to be in charge of, like, referees, more or less, right?
Yeah,
People who are, like,
yeah.
kind of watch for that stuff.
Exactly, yeah. The term referee is a little loose because I feel like in sports, if the ref didn't see it, it didn't happen.
Sure.
In our game, it's definitely much more honor-based, and so the expectation is that you are going to do what happened regardless of who saw it. But we do have referees that watch. They're there mostly on the bigger fields to watch for safety.
Sure.
But on the tournament level, because it is much more extreme, they are there to watch for shots, see who hit who first, and to tell us more specifically whether your shot that hit me was one shot or maybe it was a second shot.
Sure. Like you do two motions.
Yeah, I do two motions. One, I started after I was dead.
Sure.
Because a dead person's not going to articulate the elbow and
I
wrist
might
to
die
throw
here
that.
and be like, oh, no, I died.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to,
Exactly.
That makes
exactly.
sense. Yeah, do we have time for another fight? Yeah, all right, cool. Let's, I think we were 1-1 on this, right?
I think so.
All right, well, let's break the tie again.
All right.
Hey, hands. I'm dead.
You got the arm in here.
Right in the solar plexus. All
Wanna
right,
grab
well,
a shield or?
yeah, I think we finish out sword and board really fast. Sword and shield really quick.
Sure.
I'm going to steal this one.
Go for it.
Did you make this?
I did.
Wow,
I did.
truly incredible. Impressive.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank
Oh, God. Shield.
She's dead leg. Good. Good arm.
So, like we said earlier, it was foot on ground and hand on weapon. But if I've hit your leg and you're down and I hit you there, you just said dead leg. So
Yeah.
as long as it's down, that doesn't count anymore?
Correct. Yeah. It's something we didn't cover because we couldn't get down while we were in the chairs.
Sure.
But in here, if I hit you in the leg, we don't want people just hitting that same leg over and over.
Sure.
So we're going to call it the dead leg, and we're not going to take shots against that.
Okay.
If you hit me anywhere else, I would be out.
Sure.
But we just treat it basically as like the foot. It doesn't count for anything.
Sure. Okay.
Good.
Oh,
Thanks.
I hit you in the head. I am bad at this game. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Let's go ahead and roll it back to the next fight. No, we're good.
Let's get a wah 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 sound effect.
So although we try not to hit people in the face, we will see that it happens. It's
Yeah.
part of the game.
I was going over like for the shoulder area right here and
When
just
I pulled
landed
back,
across your face
yep.
at the same time.
So
That's still my fault though. I'm sorry about that.
yeah, it's all right. It happens. Light on that.
Okay. So that's an example of a shot not being heavy enough, right? So I
Right,
just kind of
yep.
skimmed a little bit.
Yep. Shield caught some of it. The rest of it didn't make it to my body.
Got
Again,
it.
just communicating because to you, your sword stopped.
Right.
But to me, I'm telling you, like, hey, I got most of that. You did touch me. Let's keep going.
Sure. You hit me in the shoulder.
Did
I am
it?
dead.
All right.
Wah,
Good.
wah. So I hit you in the face once,
Yep.
and then you killed me.
I think there was a fight before that,
Was there
wasn't
a fight before that? Are we 1-1
It
again?
gets hard to keep track of.
Are we 1-1 again? Or is
Let's
that
just
you?
do one more to call it for
One
all.
last
Just
one. All
one
right.
for everything.
All the marbles.
Hands.
Shield.
Shield as well.
Oh, the shield behind you.
Good, you're good.
Hit the shield again on that one.
Yeah. All right, that's it.
I come victorious.
It was good fighting with you.
Good fighting you as well. Good night fights. Again, this has been Vander of Jordan Squire Vander, but we didn't get into all these other extra title things. But
Sure.
thank you so much for being here. Thank you for demonstrating Belegarth Combat, or Medieval Combat Society. That's all we have for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Take care. Yeah, you did. You beat me.